On this Super Tuesday, we want to bring in Chris Cooper, who is a political science professor at Western Carolina University. Chris, good morning. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing all right. How are y'all?
We're doing great. Listen, thanks for joining us. A busy day ahead. I know a busy day for you on campus there. Let's start with what we just read. We talked about the Supreme Court decision yesterday. Are you surprised that they ruled to keep Trump on the primary ballot, at least in Colorado? Because this could send a shockwave to other states across the country.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not too shocked. I mean, look, it's rare that I see one coming, but I think we all kind of saw this one coming. Colorado was almost like a brushback pitch in some ways from the state court, but I think we all expected that it wouldn't work in the end, and that the court would come down pretty decisively and say that Donald Trump was allowed to be on the ballot. And we should note it wasn't just decisive. I mean, this was unanimous. There was a little bit of disagreement about some of the legal rationale, but the bottom line was the United States Supreme Court said in unison, Donald Trump on the ballot. Colorado does not have the right to take him off the ballot. So it is business as usual. And for the last few years, business as usual has meant Donald Trump versus Joe Biden. And that's exactly what we're seeing.
You kind of said it right there, Chris. Donald Trump versus Joe Biden. For Nikki Haley right now, this is her last chance to try to make some sort of race out of this. Is there anything she can do today? What's her game plan going forward? Or are you to try to make yourself a possible VP candidate?
You know, I think she's probably lost the opportunity for VP candidate. There's one thing we know about Donald Trump. One thing that's consistent is he likes loyalty above all else. And Nikki Haley's not exactly been loyal to Donald Trump lately. So I don't think this is a play for VP. I really don't. I think Nikki Haley is playing the hand she's been dealt. And it's a pretty crummy hand, right? I mean, she's very unlikely to win. But I think the one way this plays out for her is, let's say for any number of reasons, Donald Trump does not become the ultimate nominee. He's not able to run. Let's say he pulls out at the last second. Nikki Haley's hoping that she is the last person standing, that she can say she stayed in this race when everybody else got out, when everybody else kowtowed. Small odds of that happening, but I think those are the best odds that Nikki Haley has.
Chris, I want to zoom in and focus on the state of North Carolina. You had a quote recently that said if you could put two candidates, if you could make them up in a candidate factory and find two more opposite candidates, you've got Josh Stein, who's running for governor, and Mark Robinson also running for governor. I mean, far end of the spectrum here. How do you think this race is going to shape up between today and November?
Oh, it's going to be fascinating. It's going to be expensive. And I think it's going to be really nasty. So Mark Robinson, of course, is the likely nominee coming out of Super Tuesday on the Republican side. Josh Stein, the current attorney general, is the likely Democratic nominee. Again, these folks are completely different in terms of ideology, in terms of temperament, in terms of how they rose through the ranks to get where they are today. I mean, it really is hard to imagine two different candidates. In terms of today, what I think we want to see is how much division is there within each party. So the Democratic Party, of course, is about 40% people of color. Josh Stein, not a person of color, very clearly. Mike Morgan running against him is. And so I think there's some folks who are saying, well, how much of the vote is Mike Morgan peel off in Durham County, for example, and some of these places with larger African-American populations? And what might that suggest for Josh Stein's support in the party going forward? Cut to the Republican side, Mark Robinson is likely to win, but look, he's not everybody's cup of tea. Some people think he goes too far, much like Donald Trump. And so I think we're looking not so much to see what Dale Folwell does or what Bill Graham does, but what those two folks do combined. And maybe combined, that's some sense of kind of what the anti-Robinson vote might look like.
Chris, I want to ask you, talking about what you said may not be the most competitive race in the state, but it's certainly going to be the most expensive attorney general race that we've seen in state history. The race right there, obviously, Jeff Jackson, he's the presumed front runner. We were saying he's so confident he's not even having an election party tonight. Dan Bishop, we know, will be the Republican nominee there. What can we see from today in the AG race, and what preview will that give us for the fall?
Yeah, I mean, I think, like you said very well, that race is going to be fascinating in the fall. Don't sleep on the AG race. It is Attorney General. It will be certainly the most watched, the most expensive Attorney General race in the country for a few reasons. One, the presumptive nominees, Jeff Jackson, Dan Bishop, they both have big profiles. They're in Congress. We have two people sitting in Congress who are now running for Attorney General. You don't see that every day As a matter of fact, I don't know that we've ever seen that before. In terms of today, as you said, Dan Bishop, he's got this thing. Nobody ran against him on the Republican side. In terms of the Democratic side, Jeff Jackson is likely to win, but just like we talked about potential racial division, or at least questions about how the primary will go for governor, I think we see something fairly similar in Attorney General. Jeff Jackson likely to win, but the person likely to finish in second, Santana DeBerry, who is very qualified, a DA from Durham. There's a lot of folks wanting to see how much of the vote does she get in the places that are more diverse, the more diverse parts of our state, including but not limited to Durham. So we expect Jackson to win. How much is DeBerry gonna sort of comb in to chip off some of his numbers? I think that remains to be seen.